Cheating Death Podcast is a satirical program containing objective information about anything and everything under the sun. We are not political. We are not religious. We are merely analytical, and perhaps a bit prodigious. You have made the decision to dive down the rabbit hole of exploration and self-identification. For you are now listening to the Cheating Death Podcast. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we provide insight and some information on the phenomenon known as shapeshifting and shapeshifters. Who and what is a shapeshifter? Exactly what type of dynamic is it that provides them the ability to shift so easily, and how and why is it so tied deeply into folklore? We also provide you with an all-new top 5 list, an all-new Annihilation Announcement, and of course a joke of the episode. And dear listener, there is much, much more. So by now you know what to do. Grab yourself an iced coffee, grab yourself a blanket and a pillow. Put your feet up and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. Ask yourself a question each and every single morning about what you are willing to do and capable of doing to move forward in a way to where you may not have been able to do so previously. Ask yourself what you can do to grow, to change, to foster development, and to understand exactly what needs to be done in order to be a better version of yourself. Now, does this mean shifting your personality? Does this mean changing who you are to a degree? In a way, it does, but we also must understand that as we move forward and try our best, there is nothing that we can do other than doing everything within our power to ensure that the ultimate lesson that we have taught ourselves is not only conducive to our development, but also in such a way that we are able to move forward and we are able to try our best. The world is an evil place, she said, and we agreed. But there is no excuse when it comes down to the brass tacks of the situation. And when we look up at the sun and the sky and we see leaves in the trees and we see foliage around us and birds flying around, that we don't at least have the awareness that this world can be a beautiful place, that those who dwell within it are merely trying their best in order to configure their situation and to identify a solution within. The world is harsh. The world is unfair. And there are many around us in whom do absolutely nothing but try their very best at each and every single point throughout the day in order to see exactly what must be done to move forward and to venture beyond. But we ask ourselves, what more can we do? What more can we say? What more can we pontificate on to see exactly what is needed to proceed amicably throughout this realm? These are always questions that will always be asked throughout every era, throughout every generation, throughout every single time. We do not understand the extent of our own souls and the extent of our own capabilities. We have no interest in identifying points of contention within ourselves on a grand basis, and this is a pointed fact. We are very specific creatures. We are entities in whom do absolutely nothing but try to improve the lives and the minds of those in whom we care about closest, and if we do not have anyone we care about, we care only about ourselves. But there is also the other side of that equation, when there are people who are completely lonely and isolated and do absolutely everything they possibly can to care for the organisms and for the creatures in their lives as if they were their own. We all find a way to move forward into a particular avenue of approach, into a different construct, a different time. And when we get ourselves to a point to where we are able to look at the sun and breathe with reprieve, we have already given ourselves the opportunity to shine. We have already given ourselves an opportunity to see what it is that needs to be completed. And when we give ourselves a chance to inject that into other people, into other situations, and into other positions, we are doing the very best that we can each and every single day to configure the solutions and the situations within ourselves in order to make the world a little bit better of a place, one day at a time. So I implore you, dear listener, this news anchor asks you to do some community service within your friends and within your family and check on them every once in a while. Actually physically text message them or call them, because the reality of the situation is that you may be the difference maker between somebody experiencing a good day or a bad one. But that is neither here nor there, dear listener, for this has been your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. Willkommen, meine Freunde. Guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht. Ist deine Reisende und deine Ausländer, deine Allesfresser, deine Schauspieler, deine Vernichtrundes, deine Künstler. Und aus dieser feines und helles Gesicht ist aus der gemacht. Ich bin bereit und heute ist eine schöne Tage, meine Freunde. Today on the Cheating Death podcast, we get into the nitty-gritty of how some consider shapeshifters to be one of the pillars of society, of the one in which we are not aware that exists within the midst of our own eyes, dear listeners. So, as we look across the land, we have heard the term shapeshifters on more than one occasion, regardless of whether it be people considering politicians to be shapeshifters, athletes, or celebrities. There has always been a strong tie into folklore and mythology, as well as the epics of fiction that we put ourselves through when we are reading various bits of books, as well as stories, and as well as hearing from the echelons of the old exactly what a shapeshifter was and what they consist of. From where they emanate, dear listeners, shapeshifters and the ideology goes all the way back to Greek and Roman folklore, and all the way back, including into the early indigenous communities as well, for the Norse Loki as well as the Greek Proteus. These individuals have been known to be shapeshifters and are capable of shifting their shape at any given point or time. The early examples of these particular entities also emanate from East Asia as well, what some would categorize the Huoliqing of China or the Obake of Japan. There are so many examples over the course of time as to what shapeshifting is, as to who they represent, as to what type of literary device in modern fantasy they inhabit and or include. And when we take into example a lot of the different examples that we put ourselves through in horror novels and in television programs and in movies and in documentaries, to this day it is still one of the most absolutely horrifying types of endeavors that we can ever hope to ever not want to experience in our lives. In the grand scheme of things, a lot of people in America have heard of the skinwalkers in Nevada, the ever so lovely and horrifically mysterious figures that emanate deep into the night in rural Nevada and have been alleged to not only kidnap and remove people from their homes late at night, but also give people an opportunity to give themselves a truly deep scare, and not only free themselves from that despair. But when we look back as far back as the ocean in Métis, the reality of understanding that it goes as far back as the Greek mythology, identifying that the realities behind the conquests that shapeshifters were hoping to achieve is nothing more than sheer malevolence. For the idea of the oceanoid Métis is that the given ability to change the appearance would be given the opportunity to try to have a son more powerful than Zeus himself. But it was in this time, of course, because Zeus being the master god, that he was able to see through the ruse, and he decided to destroy and decimate the individual in whom chose to try in every single which way, shape, or form to create controversy through their power. We look at things so declaratively, especially when it comes to the old forms of history, and we know specifically during these times, dear listeners, that there were a litany of people, entities, gods, heroes, that Zeus himself turned himself into. Zeus was alleged to have been a shapeshifter himself. Who would have known? For instance, he converted himself into Io. He converted himself into Hera. He converted himself into Ganymede. And in each of these three examples, of course, they were animals that they were literally converted into the shape-shifting form of. But the fact that he was able to and still chose to do so in these dynamics is not lost on the presence of society. When we look at the overall Irish and or European folklore and Celtic mythology, we look at Mathab-Fath and exactly what we were able to know and what we were able to do, seeing the example for what they are, having accidentally taken the folklore and the tales within Scottish mythology, European mythology as a whole, and Norse mythology all include shapeshifters of varying ranges. So when we take a look at the Armenian and or the Eastern European ideologies, they also follow very similar ideologies and tales as well. So regardless of the way you put it, dear listener, understand that shapeshifters themselves have the opportunity to shift the very notion and the very cultures of which they are dwelling within. If you would like to find out more, there are more books available at your local library, or if you were to go to a bookstore near you, simply look for folklore and or mythology, as there will more than likely be some shapeshifter information within. Until next time, dear listener, thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourself and each other. At the top of today's episode, we promised you a top 5 list, dear listeners, and today, seeing as we spoke about shapeshifters, we may as well provide you a list of our current 5 favorite shapes. Coming in at number 5, we have the rhombus. Coming in at number 4, we have the trapezoid. Coming in at number 3, we have the dodecahedron. Coming in at number 2, we have the cube. And coming in at number 1, we have everyone's favorite, the octagon. What are your top 5 favorite shapes? Email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com or comment beneath this video. Today's joke is brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. When one takes into account exactly how the justice system works, there are a lot of questions that we ask ourselves. What exactly is a subpoena? What is a warrant? What do you mean I'm under arrest, sir? What is this? What is this grand jury you speak of, and what makes them so grand? We all have questions about that at the end of the day, dear listener. But one question that we find ourselves asking more often than not is a life sentence really actually just a run-on sentence that never ends? How shapeshifters and shapeshifting have reached this point in society where even the most logical of individuals have started to entertain the possibility that there are reptilians dwelling among our midst, individuals in whom are doing nothing more than trying to cause calamity within society by not keeping their face or their eyes in the positions that they should be keeping them in, revealing themselves in public settings to give us a great scare and to lead us to a new realm of despair. This is not necessarily centric or catered to any particular one entity or individual, for you see, dear listener, shapeshifting has been a part of folklore and mythos for eons and eons and eons of time. It has been one of the most popular elements of certain fairy tales and certain mythologies, especially Roman and Greek mythologies, specifically when it comes down to the shapeshifting capability of the gods and the titans and the giants within. But what does it have in modern-day culture? What is the current modern placement of that reality? There really are not that many. And when you take into consideration that the vast majority of the concerns of the shape-shifting conglomeration, so to speak, have been placed into a dynamic to where people refer to politicians, celebrities, and athletes as being shapeshifters, and not common everyday people like your local barista who literally is not happy unless they provide themselves with a quad ice cap with a beautiful bit of macchiato seasoning and tasty dressing on top, flipped upside down so the espresso is on top with the ice, therefore making it a macchiato, dear listeners. But we all understand that without our caffeine, we can look like quite the beasts. But does that mean that we ourselves are shapeshifters? Of course not. It means that we are human beings in whom are trying our very best upon each and every single day in order to see the best and to see the brightest of each potential situation that comes before us. Note, dear listeners, that each and every single opportunity that we have to focus on ourselves is another opportunity for us to see just how much we can shift our personalities and we can shift our behaviors. Now, does that necessarily mean that there aren't distractions out there that will keep us from that? Of course it doesn't. That gives us an opportunity to see exactly what we can do to move forward and what we can do to try our best. But when you take into account who in your life may be a shapeshifter, you must be wary of your local politician. You must be wary of your local wizard. And of course, you must be wary of each and every single person in whom wears a pointy hat. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Thank you for tuning in today. And remember, be kind. And take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast is brought to you by Nach Them Lieben CRDBC, Cleric of Chaos, and where you find all podcasts on all platforms. If you would like to support the program, you may do so by purchasing merchandise, buying a cameo, or buying us a coffee at the links in the episode's description below. If you or anyone you know is experiencing psychiatric duress, or you are having an emergency calamity involving substance abuse or gambling withdrawal, please consult the telephone numbers listed in the telephone section of the podcast and episode's description. Please follow the program on all of our social media, subscribe to our YouTube as well as our Twitter and Instagrams. Follow each and every single one of our fine consultants, producers, and friends of the program at the links in the episodes and in the podcast description as well. And if you, dear listener, are looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center as they are in dire need of your support. And visit yummypets.com/voice and create a free account. Tap the button every day to give shelter animals an opportunity to receive £330 in free kibble at the end of each month. Dear listener, we always understand that through each and every single one of our trials and tribulations that we do our best to see the best in each situation, but sometimes you must fight for yourself, and you must wage war on the chaos and on the calamity within. And until you figure it out, do not worry. We're pulling for you. We're all in this together.